Welcome back, csc200 class, to part 2 of our ex5 table, or our PHP table. And actually, as long as I'm in here, let me change this ex4 to be ex5 in our title. And as long as we're up here on this part of the page, we're in our HTML part of the page, and I put a margin left so that our table is moved over a little bit. Maybe we'll do a couple more things that we could do to the entire table. If we wanted to change the font, we could do a font family. And on the example that I had, I used kind of a fixed width font of like Gonzales and Monaco. You don't have to do that. Maybe we'll just do a sans serif. So maybe I'll just go in here with a sans serif and do like a Calibri. And I'll do a Tahoma. And then I'll do Arial, because that's very common. And then finally, I'll just do sans serif. There's a dash in there, so you don't need quotes on it because it's still considered one word because there's a dash in it. If any fonts have two words in them, like Times New Roman, well, that's 3, or Arial Black or something like that, you would need quotes around them, but these don't. So by doing that, and if I just save this, everything in the table should have the font family changed to Calibri or something like that. And I'll refresh it, and there it is. Now this stayed Times up here in this, and that actually looks a little cleaner. And then another thing I'll do for the table, although I don't know if there's anything for the table, but maybe I'll just add a little padding in here to put a little space all around. So I'll just do padding, and if I just do a general padding, that'll do it in all directions. And I was using M's here, so I could still stick with M's, but I'll do it really, I'll have to do like 0.5 or something. You know, remember, if 1 M is 16 pixels, then like 8 pixels, so maybe even less, like 0.3 M. And see what that looks like. Make sure it's not too much. So I'll save it, and then I'll refresh it. And didn't really do a lot. Oh, actually, I don't want that. That's wrong. Because you can see what happened. Nothing really happened. It put padding around the table. So I actually want padding around the cells. So let me I'll just comment that out for now. Even though that's not really a comment. No, I guess I should use a real comment. I'll use a real comment for now. And make sure I close the comment so it doesn't affect anything else. But then I'll use that for my table cells. So we're also going to use table cells. Now, another thing we'll do here is I'll make another selector, and I'll do one for table row, which would just be TR. And I'll make a selector for that. So what do I want to do with my rows? Now, I could put padding on that, but I think I have to put padding on our cells, not on our tables. I think I tried that before. But what I want to do with our rows is actually I want to alternate the background color of every row. And to do that, I could do something called TR, and I think it's nth child. And if you look at nth child selectors in W3 schools, you can see all these. But we're going to do TR nth child. And this is where you could kind of choose certain numbered children of those rows, like the third one or something. So even if we just did 3, just to test it out, and I did something called background color here, I'll start off, I'll do FF, FF, FF. Now that's white. And that means RGB, I want the blue the highest, so I'll take these down a little bit, and I'll make them like AA. I'll make the first one AA. And I'll just see what that looks like. It should be kind of a light blue. I'll save it. And obviously you can look up another color. And that looks a little dark, so I might lighten up those other ones a little bit. And it's getting the third child there, so I'll lighten these up, and I'll make this CC. Save it. All right, that looks a little better. It's a little nicer. And also what I'll do, I don't want the third child. I actually want odd. You could do odd or even, but I'll do the odd ones right now. And I'll save that. And that should do alternating ones. Look how nice that looks. Starts with the first and it does the odd. So that now we have a nice looking table here. We can even add some padding, I guess, to the right or left side. Since we have color in here, maybe actually to the left side or all around. Maybe we could just do all around for each, and we could do these for cells. So maybe we'll put some padding around these cells here. Now we'll also make another selector for cells, which is TD. And we'll just put padding in there. Now I'll copy this one since I used this one before, or I'm not going to use it. And I just noticed Tahomsa, that's wrong. And I'll put this in here, and I'll get rid of the comments for CSS, and I'll save it, and I'll see what this looks like. And you can see it widens it a little bit, and that looks okay. That's not bad. Maybe I'll even take it down a little to 0.2. So it's not quite so much. And that looks okay. So that looks good. And even if we wanted to, we can put borders around here. So we could put borders around all the cells. And I'll just do a solid. And you don't need a comma, just solid. I'll make it just black. And I'll do it 1 pix. And I'll save it. And you can see what happens here. It's showing some like cell padding, some default cell padding, cell spacing, and I think it's cell spacing in here. Now what you could do, and I had to look this, I just looked it up, so if you look it up, but I'll tell you right now what this is. I think it's under table, and I think it's border, and I think it's a thing called border collapse. I looked it up. And you could check it out yourself, and it's just collapse. And there it is, it's showing up here. So let me just see if this was from what I remember, because I just looked up and it came up in Stack Overflow of how to collapse cell padding and cell spacing with CSS, and it mentioned border collapse. So, because I was trying to, because there's no border cell padding and stuff like that to turn it to 0. So let's see if that works. And that works. So that looks a little nicer now. So we have a black border on here. We have padding around here, and everything looks pretty good. The only thing we want to do here is we actually want to add another table row at the bottom that shows the amount of results, so we kind of have an idea how many there are. Otherwise, you know, if there's a long list, we're just scrolling. So we'll do that. How do we figure out the number of rows? Well, what we can do is check out W3 Schools, and I'm going to go to PHP. We'll go all the way down to the PHP reference, and we'll go to these PHP MySQLi. They'll have different functions here that we're going to check out, and there'll be a whole list of them. And here's functions right here. Now, if you go through here, they're kind of, we're going to look for one that says rows, and I think it says get. So if we look for FG get, I thought it said get, or maybe it says number. And there it says number. MySQLi number rows returns the number of rows in a results set. That's exactly what we want. So, and how did I find that out? I just looked for it and, you know, tried to find a way to get the number of rows, because that's not a very difficult thing to find out. So now to use it, I'm going to click on it and just see what it does. Now it has this long thing. Now it has a connection and an if-else statement, all this kind of stuff. But what I really want from here, and I don't even want this printf here, because we could just use an echo. But all we want here, and we could keep the, I guess we could keep the comment here, but all I really want is this row count equals MySQLi number of rows and then the result. And we already have that variable, the result. So I'm going to copy this. And where I'm going to copy this, I'm going to have to go back to my PHP, because this is PHP now. Now we don't want it part of this if-else statement. We don't want it part of the while loop, anything like that. Where we actually wanted it is at the end of our PHP before it closes, before the connection closes. So we're going to put it right here. And it says row count equals MySQLi. Now it's going to generate a row count, but it's not displaying it yet. So we're going to use another echo here. So we're going to have to do echo, because we want it to show up on a page. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make another row. So we're going to just kind of do what we did up here. And I'm going to copy one of these. I'll tab over. And we're going to make a row, and then it's going to have basically, and we can also kind of do a column span, so we could kind of merge them together. But we're actually going, what we're going to show here, we're not going to show a row. We're going to take this out. What we're actually going to use is row count. You see this thing up here? We're going to use that. We're going to say row count, because that's what's going to be returned. Or I could just put results. It'll just give me a number, and I'll put returned. I'll do that, and I'll put a period. And notice I'm putting this inside the TD tag, because it's text, but it's also an HTML tag, so they can stay inside there. And notice I'm putting a space here, so that when it shows the number, it's actually putting a space before it shows. So I'm going to say like 28 results returned. And this is in the very bottom. This should be the very bottom. Now, I don't have this finished yet, because I actually want to put this at the bottom too. So I need to finish off my closing TR tag, so it's actually making another row at the very bottom, and it'll put it at the bottom here. And actually, if you don't put it in a row, it actually puts it above the table. It doesn't actually put it in the table, it puts it above the table. I tried that before, so I'm just skipping that step. But so we're going to put it a row at the bottom, and we'll see what happens here. I'll just kind of save this, and I'll refresh it. And 28 results returned. That's actually what we want. Now we might want it kind of on the right. We might want a different background color. Now the reason it's only making one cell here is because we only made one cell. We only have one cell in here. Now we could just make extra blank ones, but one thing we could do is we could do something called call span, and we could do equals 4, and I think we might have to put in there. Now if you're not sure, just go to W3 Schools, and I'll go back to HTML, and we'll just check out tables, and they'll talk about call spans eventually. Here, cells that span many columns, and what they do is they just do a call span equals, and it is in quotes, so you have to do that. And here's one. Now this is row span, so we're going to do a call span so it spans a couple columns, just like merging cells in Word. So I'm going to do call span, and since I'm using double quotes here, I'm going to use single quotes here. So I'll do 4, and I think it was 4 because we do have four columns. So I'm going to do span 4, and it's still going to put our results in here. And then even if we want, we can align it right. So we're going to do a couple more things, but let's just make sure that it returns okay first. So I'm going to save it. I'll refresh it. So now it's in its own row, and it actually has merged. So that's good. But maybe we'll give it a different color, and maybe we'll align it right. And we could do all that. So we'll go back here, and we'll go back up to our CSS. Now, tricky. How do we target the last row? Well, here we targeted odd rows. And there actually is something, there's another, and I'll do it after this one since we're doing rows here. I'm going to do TR, and I'm going to do, I think it's last child. Now, if you're not sure, or you could do this, you could say target last row of table, and it'll come up with Stack Overflow, and there is a target, and here it is. TR last child, and that's it. Notice there's no parentheses, you don't put anything in there, it's just TR last child. So thank you, Stack Overflow. So it's just TR last child, and that's actually, I had that right here. So it's TR last child. So I'm making a selector for that, and I'm targeting that last row, and in there I'm going to change the background color. So I'll copy this one, and I'll change the background color. Maybe I'll make it yellow, which yellow would be, let's see, I'll just do all Fs, and then I think the R and G together makes yellow, and I'll take the first two down to like I don't know, I guess I'll put them down all the way, unless I put them down to like 6.6, something like that, and I'll save it, and I'll see what that looks like. And that's okay. That's a nice yellow down there. And if I wanted to make it bold, if I wanted to line it right, I could do that all within this area here. I could say text align and right. I could target that, and then if I wanted it bold, I could do font weight, and I could just use my CSS to target that, and I'll just say bold, and I'll save that, and I'll refresh it, and now it's returned to the right. 28 results returned. I have a period there. I don't know if I need that, and it's yellow, and it looks nice, and if I wanted to make it bigger or anything else, I could do anything I want with this table. And not only that, is I could go here and say, okay, instead of Oceania, let's try Africa, and it would have to be a continent. It couldn't be something that wasn't in that list, but I could say that, and I could go here, and now I have Africa, and there I have 58 results returned. And I could go back and I could do North America as long as I'm typing it from my database. And if I did something like that, let's just see what happens. Let's break it. 0 results returned. So we already have that built in. And actually it's nice that it did that, because I have the name wrong. Now it doesn't say why I got it wrong, but now I'll put a space in here and I'll save it. And I'll refresh it. And look at that. Now I have 37 results. So I may ask you a couple, just to make sure you try them all out. I might ask you a couple different countries on the instructions just to do that when you're done. But that's all you have to do for this. So that wasn't too bad. We were able to do this in 2 videos, hopefully. So we just had to add a HTML table in here we had to add a little bit more code so that it was actually generating rows and cells from a table instead of just using line breaks and doing it like that. That way we could kind of control it. They're in their own boxes, and it's kind of a little neater, especially for data like this, especially when you have multiple columns of data. Tables work out really nice. And then the last thing we did here is we just made an extra row where we just put our results. And you could put other things there too. You know, you could go through the W3 schools and check out all those different functions there, and maybe there's something else that you'd want to generate. And then finally, we just kind of used CSS styles here, and we put them in our head tag in style tags, and then we just made some selectors for table, our odd rows, our last row. You could even put a header row. You could do anything you want. And then for the individual columns or the individual cells, we put padding in there. We put borders in there. We even collapsed our border on that by using border collapse. So everything looks okay. So I'm going to save that. And this is EX5. You could just call it EX5. So once that's done, I'm going to check it out and make sure it looks okay. And maybe I'll give you a couple different questions of different continents you might want to check out, but that's about it for EX5. So that's setting up a table. So that's helpful for any time we want to generate data. We'll keep using this code for other databases that we're going to work on, because we're going to work on other databases aside from the world database. So that's EX5 PHP table.